So just like we did for the reciprocal graph, there are transformations associated with the reciprocal square. So we're going to do an example. So hopefully, as you're taking notes, you have your graph of the reciprocal square in front of you. Just to keep it less complicated, I didn't like how everything got muddled up on that previous graph. I'm going to start from scratch. So what I've got is g of x is equal to 1 over x minus 2 squared. So my minus 2 is directly on the x. So again, according to what we've learned about transformations before this, that means that the whole graph is going to go right 2 units. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to move that vertical asymptote right 2 units. So here it is, dot, 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 lots of nice dots right through the x value 2. The horizontal asymptote, since I have not moved the graph up and down, it is going to stay right here along the x-axis. And then again, the asymptotes define the behavior of our graph. So that tells you a whole lot about how the graph is going to look. And we're going to use that idea that the asymptotes define the behavior of a graph when we get to section 5.2 in our next videos. So now I'm going to take the points that I had before and I'm going to move all of them right 2. So instead of the point being 2.5, when I move it over 2, it's going to be 4 and up a half. Instead of the point 1, 1, I'm going to move it right 2, so it's going to be 3, 1. And then instead of the point half 4, I'm going to move it over 2, it's going to be 2.5 and 4. So this is the first part of the graph. Again, it's the asymptotes define that behavior of the graph. It's never going to go through either of those asymptotes. And then the stuff that was on the left side of the y-axis, when I take this point that's -0.5 and 4, it's now, when I move it right 2, it's going to be 1.5 and 4. When I have the point -1 and 1, when I move it right 2, it's going to go to 1, 1. And last but not least, the point that was 2.25, when I move it, it's going to be 0 and 1/4. So here we go. Here's the other side. And before we stop this video, I think I misspoke at the beginning. You probably caught it. This point here, that was 2. I said it was a half. I was thinking reciprocal function. This is 2.25. So let me lower this one down a little bit. That should be 1/4, real much closer to the axis. So that'll even make this easier to draw. So there is my graph. One other thing. The range stays the same of this graph, but notice how the domain is now changed. The x value that is no longer used is 2. So the way that I would write the domain of this is I would say that the domain is -∞ to 2, union 2 to infinity.